Hi, good morning. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Chris Conroy. I'm the Executive Vice President and General Counsel here at Insurance Agency Marketing. Appreciate you joining today's program. And in a few minutes, I'll be pleased to be joined here with Kevin Mechtley, who's one of our foremost industry experts on this U.S. Department of Labor Fiduciary Rule. He is our he's the Vice President and Director of Government Affairs over at Sammons Financial, and supports North American company who we're pleased to partner with. A lot of people, this is a hot topic. There's been a lot of change on that standard of care front. Those folks in the SEC world would know SEC Reg BI. The insurance side, we've seen the NAIC best interest, the revised suitability rule, get adopted and passed around many states. That will continue. And we also have this additional hurdle, the federal Department of Labor rule, which affects all of your qualified money. So we know a lot of advisors are concerned about this rule. What does this mean to them? What does it mean to their clients? And so we're pleased to have an expert here to have a conversation. You'll watch this video program in just a minute. IAMS just know is here as a trusted outlet to get you real-time information and updates on issues, opportunities that are going to impact your business. Ultimately, we are an advocate for you on all fronts, and we're pleased to provide these great products and help advocate for it on your behalf. Thanks to North American Company and Kevin for being a longstanding carrier partner, advocate for distribution and clients. Great company, been around for a long time on both the FIA and Index UL front, and we're pleased to have Kevin, one of the experts here. So the most important thing I want you to remember here is, we're out, got your back, we're there to support you, but give us a call. That number at the top right there, 800-255-5055 is the number. So we got a wealth of information, resources. Those who've been working with us for a long time would know that. Some of you that are newer to us, just know that we got your back. We got a lot of resources. So our agenda today is to jump into a little bit of information about IAMS, Insurance Agency Marketing, and then we'll get into the video program. So there'll be a couple polling questions. You'll have 3 of them along the way. Appreciate you taking a look at that and responding to those as we move through this. So first program I want to mention about IAMS is our new producer builders program. And those for those newer producers to us. These are bonuses available to you based on your production in your first 180 days or 6 months of contracting with you. We got a lot of great levels here you can qualify for, many different options to help you either grow your business or be rewarded to help put it back into your business. So call your sales director about details on how that works, but that program's been available and very popular. The other program I want to mention is our Business Builders program. So there's really 2 key components there, the referred producer program, and where you can get a cash incentive to refer a great producer. It's always a great way to grow our base here. And the next is our very popular marketing reimbursement program. And so, roughly every $100,000 of fixed index annuity gets you about $100 in your marketing reimbursement account. One difference from a lot of our competitors is that this program doesn't have a cap. And we're not going to tell you where you need to spend the cash. That's available for any of your expenses that you have in your business. So this is a great opportunity to get some of that much needed market reimbursement dollars so you can help grow your business. The other element about our company I want to mention is our back office support. So this is really a core of who IAMS is, and what we were founded to do back 36 years ago is really helping that independent advisor work smarter, not harder. So whether it's advanced case design, life and annuity quotes, illustrations, all of which we get turned around very quickly, generally within 24 hours. That's who we are. That's our 2-ring guarantee here. We literally answer the phone within 2 rings and you'll never get a voicemail. Differentiates us from many of the competition. So we have also a lot of other tools of note here. Reach out to us. Paperless contracting is through the Assurance Bay platform. We get you appointed with virtually every carrier. Firelight. So Firelight, very great application available in the business. We have our own single sign-on here through IAMSinc.com. And most of our carriers are on that e-app platform, and we're adding more and more every day. Great way to do business. We've seen adoption of this increase substantially in the COVID year. and continue to use that as a great outlet. Yeah, our list of carriers, this is just a selection of some of those, but just know we have a wide catalog of carriers that are available for your use. So we know the value of independent marketing organizations is you can partner with those carriers that might be available, and those change. What's best for the client, we can help you with those recommendations. Just know we have that a wide catalog on both the annuity and life front to support what your needs are with your clients. Hey, our creative marketing team, whether it's turnkey solutions, agency solutions, or digital solutions, are all available really to help you grow your business. These are like great turnkey programs to help you figure out how you can grow your business, whether it's something simple like logos, business cards, all the way through a more sophisticated analysis of taking a look at your social media presence, digital marketing, websites, e-blasts, Google Analytics. And those are all things that we do day in and day out with independent advisors and agency heads to help you grow your business. I'm gonna, one thing we do here, I'll launch a polling question, again, encourage you to respond to this, is we can provide a complimentary marketing analysis of your business, and I'm gonna launch that question now. So we do this with many other agents. Good way to take a look at your business. We'll do that with really kind of a quick call to understand what your assets are and how we can help you. We do this with many other advisors all around the country, and just know it's no cost to you, a great opportunity to take a look from outside into your business. So if you're interested in getting that free analysis, just let us know. I got a number of people here responding. I'll close that up. Thank you. And moving on to our next topic is our IAMS website. So this is really home base for you, IAMSinc.com, where you can get a lot of sales tools, marketing pieces, annuity grids, long-term care grids, news in the industry. This is really an excellent place to pick up information and move your business along. Next one I want to mention is we have a number of great tools, one of which is Retirement Analyzer. This is a great tool. It's a holistic analysis software available for anybody who partners with us. We have another great tool on the life side, Stonewood, as well, available to you. So just know we have this tool along with others, which are a good way to help clients see their financial situation and how you can kind of move their retirement outlook to a better picture. Hey, next one, I'll do a quick polling question on this as well, is we have our own RIA, IAMS Wealth Management, which is a SEC registered RIA, been around 3-4 years now, and we've grown this organically. Many of the folks that we work with are investment advisor reps and are eager in affiliating with our IAMS Wealth Management sister company. There's a number of people that have probably more than ever have asked for, how do I become a 65? So we've got some great programs there to help you, some incentives to take a look at becoming a advisor and how that can supplement your business and become a holistic advisor for your clients, not just annuity and life insurance. I'm going to launch a poll question here. If you'd like more information about IAMS Wealth Management and how that might be a fit for you, whether you're a current 65 or you're looking to become a 65, how that might help your business. So a lot of people who are curious about what that opportunity looks like. We have a great team here that supports that and its affiliates. So opportunity to partner on the wealth management side and the insurance under one house. So yeah, close down that polling question here. Thank you. Next slide is something that we've done for many, many years is top producer incentive trips. So we have this great event that we've organized for next year. It's August 28th through September 4th. It's a Mediterranean cruise, starts in Rome, works around the boot, and comes back into Venice. So you can see the locations there. Still plenty of time to qualify. This runs through the end of June next year. All of your annuity and life business counts, all of your multi-year guarantee, single premium life, et cetera, counts. We'll get you details on how that works. 4.5 million credits to qualify. Indeed, we already have several qualifiers and good opportunity to get into a great event, network with some other top producers and recognize the best in the industry. And last thing I want to mention, I'll do a polling question as well here, is our Life and Annuity Academy. So something we've done for 15, 20 years here is a top-notch training academy that can give you sales ideas from very, very top producers, going deep into index annuities and also index universal life. Talk about how we can help you from a business insurance concept, sales concepts, advanced annuity tools, and also just networking with some of the best in the industry. So we have two academies that we're pleased to partner with. One is with Athene, September 29th through October 1st in West Des Moines. The other one is North American, brand new building, also in West Des Moines, November 3rd, 4th, 5th. So those are our Wednesday to Friday programs like we've done in the past. And we've got some great retooled material there and industry experts that are going to be speaking, along with the C-suite folks and top people from both Athene and North American. So if you are interested in that academy, it's an all expense paid trip to check out both at their beautiful campuses there and hear from how IAMS can help you grow your business. Definitely check yes here, and if we'll follow up with you about that academy. Which one's a good fit? They're both similar. The North American one probably goes a little deeper on life insurance, but they both will cover both annuity and life. So if you're interested in that, please vote and we'll move on here. Thank you. So we have a great social media presence. We encourage you to go out to Facebook and LinkedIn and like and support us. And again, as we start to transition over to the video program here, I just encourage you to give us a call at 800-255-5055. Appreciate your patience. And well, we will now move into the video program. I had a chance to interview Kevin Mechtley from Sammons Financial. Thank you. Thanks for joining today's program on the U.S. Department of Labor Fiduciary Rule update. So we're pleased here to be joined with our Vice President of Legal for North American Company, Mr. Kevin Mechtley. Welcome, Kevin.
Thank you very much, Chris. Happy to be here.
Tell us a little bit about what you do for North American.
Sure. So generally speaking, I run government affairs at North American. I'm also in the legal department, do a few things there. But what it means generally for me is I'm out on the road trying to help fix regulations, trying to help kill certain regulations, work with legislators, work with regulators, trying to make sure that our business continues to thrive and operate in a workable fashion with what's going on in DC and in the States, and making sure that the products that we offer continue to be able to be offered in the way that they are.
Well, one of those issues that we've been talking about all year is the U.S. Department of Labor Fiduciary Rule, which feels like it's come around, I don't know, 10 years, something like that. And IAMS has been a leader on this. I know we've had webinars in the past with hundreds of other advisors wanting to know, what's the state of the rule? What do I need to do to comply? So we thought it'd be important to bring on Kevin, who's one of the foremost experts in this space, to kind of give us the nuts and bolts and talk about this rule. And we're also going to share with you what we do here at IAMS to help you as an advisor excel and have solutions so you can continue to work with your clients. So let's get into the rule real quickly. Long rule, we've got hundreds of pages, but kind of give us a nutshell. How did we get to where we are?
Yeah, you talk about a long rule. It's been a long time. I mean, we're talking 10 years, 11 years now since we've been dealing with this issue. 2010 was the first iteration of a fiduciary rule from the Department of Labor. And that one ultimately sort of fizzled away. And then we saw the Obama-era rule come around in 2015 and 16. Ultimately, that was killed in the courts in the Fifth Circuit. And what happened then is sort of this kind of interim period where we weren't quite sure where everything was going to land, right? The ship was sort of out there, it was out to sea, and we were hoping, very candidly, that the Trump administration would come in and kind of clean up just because there were some odd sort of loose ends out there after the court case. What was going to happen for this space? And we hoped, very candidly, that they would reinstall the old test for fiduciary, that the Trump administration would come in and just say, look, we're going to reinstall the old test. And what that would effectively mean is that we in our industry probably wouldn't qualify for to meet that test for fiduciary. So we wouldn't really have to do a lot of the requirements because we just frankly wouldn't meet the test. We'd have some state requirements, all the stuff going on there, but not the true fiduciary standard and the ERISA fiduciary standard in the fixed annuity space for independent agents. Now, What ultimately happened, though, is something a little different, and we can get into the Trump administration rule. But that's kind of how we got to where we were, right? There was this old rule, got sort of killed. A new old rule kind of sort of got killed, and now we're to this sort of new era of the DOL rule.
Well, let's talk about that. So the Trump rule, if we call it that, which came out in 2020, I mean, that wasn't that an 11th hour kind of regulation. Everybody thought, like some of the other rules that outgoing presidents get bounced by the new president. Was that a surprise to industry?
Well, I think in some ways it was a surprise, in some ways it wasn't. We always thought DOL was going to do something because they needed to kind of clean things up. Now, the interim between, of course, the Fifth Circuit ruling and this new Trump rule was we had the SEC Act. They came out with Reg BI, Regulation Best Interest, this whole new regime focused on, a true best interest standard. And I think what a lot of people in industry wanted was for DOL to walk in and say, look, if you comply with Reg BI, you're probably going to be okay with us too. And they kind of pitched it like that's what they were trying to do. And in some ways they did. There were some alignment between the two standards. But what ultimately happened with the Trump rule, we can call it, is they did align certain things, but also went a little bit further. And when you talk about sort of an 11th hour, or 12th hour almost regulation, this was very, very late in the administration. So late that it was not quite done, and not quite effective before Trump's team left office. And so you're right. I think a lot of people thought, okay, while it was a pretty big rule and some pretty big things that happened, everyone kind of assumed Team Biden would come in and kill the whole thing.
Right.
But you were right. What was a little surprising was they said, we kind of like what you did here. It's actually not too bad.
Well, something's better than nothing.
Very few things that the two administrations agreed on, but one was letting this thing through. Now, that's not to say that the Biden folks aren't actively working on some fixes and changes and things like that, which they are. We'll get into that. But ultimately, it was sort of this transition of the DOL effort from the Trump world made it into the Biden world.
Well, I'm going to say I think it was a little bit of a shock to hear. And, I know Kevin and I are on the board of directors of NAFA, National Association for Fixed Annuities, big advocates for independent agents all over the country. And I think a lot of people were surprised. So this rule came on the books. It was set to take effect February 16. Now, that's under a Biden regime. And so we get the rule, and actually Biden lets it stay on the books while we're trying to figure things out. We'll talk about that here in 2021. But, let's fast forward. Now we got a rule. It's February 16th. Kind of give us that in a nutshell. No, it's a couple hundred pages, but kind of give us, there's kind of two pieces, right, to this rule. So talk about that.
So essentially, and this is, again, the Trump rule, right? This is that sort of Biden sort of ushered in. But there's really two parts. And we talked about this a second ago, that industry kind of wanted an administration to reenact the old test for fiduciary, which is actually what this did. It brought about the old 5-part test for determining who is a fiduciary under ERISA. Because that's sort of the first line. If you're a fiduciary under ERISA, then that triggers the PTEs and all the additional stuff you have to do. But if you don't quite cross that, the line, then you don't have to be in this world, which is kind of what, frankly, we were hoping would happen.
Right.
Because in the old world, this 5-part test to determine who a fiduciary is, it didn't hit us. We didn't quite qualify. And so we were excited to hear that the Trump administration was indeed reenacting the 5-part test. What we didn't expect was that as part of that, adding in that 5-part test, they sort of decided to broaden what those words meant. Yes, the words are the same as they've been since the 70s, but they said, well, that, for instance, one part is that you have to have sort of a regular basis or a regular interactions with the customer, right? And if they sort of said all along, and we believed that meant you need to manage money and make investment decisions on their behalf and things like that, things that independent agents don't do. Well, they said, well, so those words said regular, whatever, but we're actually going to say that that's a very broad definition, and that even if you're meeting with the customer for the very first time and you intend to maybe meet with them again and maybe, talk about some strategies, that would be enough to hit that prong. And we're going, wait a minute, that's very different than the way we've always thought of this. So that was really the first part. They did, re-up the 5-part test.
And just a quick second there. I mean, I think a lot of people in the industry kind of felt like, you really almost have to be an investment advice fiduciary where you're rendering ongoing advice to a client, probably about their entire portfolio needs. And to the extent that you're selling insurance products, in this case, selling annuities, they're not really covered because that's a transaction. But what you're saying is, well, they lost in court, Fifth Circuit, kind of reinterpreted what those words mean. And so now it makes it a broader definition of who is scooped up into that ERISA world.
Into that 5-part test.
Right,
yes.
okay.
And so what that effectively means, and I think we'll get to this, is for now, right now in this world, there's a pretty good argument that if you're in the qualified space and you're making a rollover recommendation and you're in the IRA to IRA space, you have to, it's a pretty low bar now to hit a 5-part test for fiduciary. Now, there's arguments you can make that you're not quite hitting it, but it's a lot tougher. So I think that's why people are kind of moving toward, all right, we got to figure out a compliance for this. Now, the second thing that we talked about, the 2 parts of the Trump rule.
Right.
That was the first one. The second one is they come out with a new PTE, a prohibited transaction exemption. So
which we like to call compliance pathways. We kind of put it in common sense words. But you got to have one of these PTEs because if you didn't, then what would happen?
You can't accept commissions.
Okay, well that's pretty bad.
That's pretty important. So they essentially say that, look, if you're an ERISA fiduciary, commissions are a kickback. They're like truly viewed as a prohibited form of
because it's a conflict.
Because it's a conflict.
Right.
Now, the whole point of a prohibited transaction exemption is it's an exemption for that prohibition. So you got to follow the terms of that exemption, compliance pathway. I like that too.
Right.
But one of the things that they ultimately put out there was this new PTE, which is 2020-02. So you might hear people say 2020-02. That's the PTE that the Trump administration proposed and that Biden's team let through. Now, what is that? You might remember the old best interest contract exemption, the old Obama rule, the BICE, the whole contract, the whole mess there. It's not quite that. It doesn't have a contract, but there are some themes of 2020-02 that are present in the old.
Well, I was going to ask you next, tell us about kind of the guts of the rule. Let me start with this though, real quick. So what does this cover? I mean, it's talking about like what kind of money is covered. Is it non-qualified money, qualified?
Only qualified.
So just qualified. We're talking 401k money, 403b money, IRA rollover recommendations. All that's qualified. It's got to have a qualified.
Correct.
Piece.
Yeah, non-qualified. You're still in SEC world, but you're not. Or
and state
world,
too. Yeah,
state
right.
World. But for truly talking DOL, we're just talking qualified money.
So qualified money, you're giving advice to a client and you're going to get paid something. You got to have one of these PTEs or compliance pathways. So this 2020 version, which feels a lot like the Obama one, without the contract requirement, what are a couple key points that people need to be practically thinking about? I know we'll talk about it in a second here, the transition period, but what's a couple of the core tenets?
Yeah, I guess to back up one just big step is not everyone's going to use this PTE. Now, I mean, right now particularly. So while we're going to talk about it, sort of give the background of it, we'll sort of get into who might fit and who it might not, right?
Okay.
But 2020-02, it has a lot of the old requirements that the BICE had, the old Obama rule. It has the impartial conduct standards, which means you got to act in the best interest of the customer, a reasonable compensation, no materially misleading statements. There's a big disclosure regime that you have to put through for the customer, including really truly signing off as a fiduciary as to why this particular product, this particular rollover is in the best interest of the customer. It's pretty meaty, particularly in replacements. There's some new language. And then you have to have a financial institution. And what is that? That means you have to have some oversight, some supervisory authority over your business who will co-sign as a fiduciary on that business. And you might remember that from the old days. It was either you could have a bank, a broker-dealer, an RIA, or an insurance company. That's what the old Obama-era version. Well, this one has the same ones, right? And so you have to have somebody, able to sign off and truly sign as a co-fiduciary on your business every sale.
Sounds like that might be the biggest sticking point because you've got investment professionals, what they call investment professionals, essentially financial advisors, agents run around. But they also have to have a supervising entity of a so-called financial institution who's also co-signing as a fiduciary.
Yeah.
So just for a quick second, is a fiduciary standard care, is that different, higher than what we're accustomed to in the annuity
the
world?
highest.
The highest,
It's the highest. You know, it is all the way up there. You hear about regulation best interest, right? You know, a lot of folks didn't like that it was best interest because it's not fiduciary. Best interest, what's better, best interest or fiduciary? You know, of course, the funny part is you poll like, you know, normal Americans, they'd probably say best interest is way better than fiduciary. They have to back best, right? But now in the courts and in everything else, sort of jurisprudence, fiduciary is the top billing.
So there's this high duty of care,
Yep.
loyalty, the prudent person rule, you know, akin to what you see with accountants and lawyers and so
Yep.
forth. And so that is a higher standard, I think, and maybe that's more diligence around
Absolutely,
taking
yeah.
a look at that transaction. Not that our producers don't do a good job and needs-based selling and complying with, you know, suitability in every state, but maybe a little more diligence around it. And we'll talk a little bit maybe in practice what that means. So, you know, fast forward, now we get into, you know, Biden administration's in for a couple months. They had signaled that maybe some supplemental guidance would come. So April comes around and they issue something. So what insights do we get from April?
Yeah, so, you know, it was kind of interesting. Like we said, we're all very surprised that the Biden team let the rule through. We assumed they were going to do something, but we thought they might just rewrite the whole thing, which they may ultimately do. But for this interim period, they said, you know, back in, I think it was January, that, look, we're going to let this thing through, but we're going to have some guidance coming that's going to demonstrate to you what we think of this thing and what we want you to be thinking about. So truly in April, they came out with this guidance, and you know, a lot of it just reiterated several things from the preamble of the original rule. But maybe here and there you had to look between the lines for some things. And one of those things was that they really doubled down on the concept of thinking that independent agents need some sort of oversight beyond what, you know, is maybe available today. And that's the same with, you know, broker dealers or reps would have the broker dealer sign off. The RIA would have, you know, the RIA sign, or IAR would have the RIA sign off. Bank officer, bank sign, whatever. But I think they feel still that there's a gap in the insurance context. And in some of the questions, they tried to sort of spell out how it could work in the insurance context. Frankly, we thought it was a little confusing and maybe not really tethered to maybe how the real world works. So, you know, we are continuing to push back and try to solve for some of those things. But one of the things that in the interim we're pushing is a wholly different exemption, right? So I don't know if you want to get into that.
So let's get into that. So we talk about compliance pathway 1 is the 2020 Trump rule.
Yep.
But there's also this pathway called PT 8424. I think it goes back to 1984 maybe. So what is that, and is that available today for people who are selling annuities?
Yeah, and so this is the kind of really important part when we talk about where agents stand today, and where agents will probably be focused, to at least over the course of the next year or so, is you know, you're right. Come February, there was the rule went into effect, and you needed to do one of two things. Well, one of three things. You needed to, if you wanted to get paid a commission, you needed to comply with a PTE, right? That's what we talked about. And one of those was 2020-02, which they had just proposed, so no one was using because it's brand new. Another option was that they said, look, we know this is new. We know it's going to take a while to get implemented. So we're going to put this non-enforcement policy in place between now and December of 2021. So December 20th, between now and then, or February and then, what DOL said is we're not going to come after you on these exemptions unless you are, or so long as you're complying with either a PTE, an existing one, or you are complying with the impartial conduct standards, which is, again, best interest, no materially misleading statements, and reasonable comp. So right now you could be doing one of two things, I think, if you're an insurance agent. You could be complying with 8424, which I know IAMS has put out some guidance on and some pathways to compliance, or you know, this other, you know, complying with a true best interest standard and all these other impartial conduct standards, at least until December. But come December, that guide or that non-enforcement policy is done. You have to be using 8424 or 2020-02. And so 8424, we think, fits our industry a lot better. It doesn't require a financial institution. It is truly a disclosure regime. So you have to you have an 8424 disclosure. You have to have the customer sign off on certain things, including disclosure of compensation, sort of the relationship between you and the insurance company, and some other things like that, some of the additional disclosures. Frankly, we think it's workable. We think it's reasonable that customer gets to see certain things. We obviously, intimate that we are, complying with a fiduciary standard. We don't have to say it quite yet. In the new versions we may, but you don't have to disclose a fiduciary. But you do have to do all these things in this 8424 disclosure. And if you do, you've complied with a PTE to get paid your commission.
Right.
And that's we think that is a very, very workable standard, one that we'd frankly like to protect in the new world, and we think will also be available at least from now until whenever a new rule is available. Which when a new rule comes out, we'll see. But I guess the takeaway though is I think you guys are doing it right. You have availability to show 8424 how it works. Get started now. Get used to it, because you should be using an exemption now, but come December you have to be using an exemption for sure. And I think you guys doing what you're doing has been great.
So a couple of comments, I guess I'd say too, and I agree with most of what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, feel free to disagree.
We wouldn't have two lawyers on here unless we
right.
couldn't disagree. But it's funny because PT 8424. Some people are like, well, why haven't we ever had to use it before? So it's been around since 1984. Why wouldn't agents?
We didn't fit
because that what Kevin described is kind of the part one of the story that came with the Trump rule, which is they redefined words.
Yeah.
So, and Biden let that take effect. So now you have one of two pathways. There's 8424, which is largely disclosure based. It has some of the guts, kind of standard of care. But candidly, it's much easier, less onerous pathway. And in the independent agent world, I know obviously connected with North American, which has been a great partner in the independent agent space. Thank you, appreciate everything you've done over the many, many years. North American has been a great advocate, involved in lobbying, legislative efforts, lawsuits, and so forth. But sticking up for the independent agent, as has IAMS. But what I'd say is we looked at this rule and we said, boy, we need to provide guidance. We need to get some information out to the field just so they understand what all this means. It's kind of a weird rule, a lot of transition. Yep. So we went out and published this thing back in February here. And this is actually our guide to the new fiduciary rule. It also provides a nice summary of the PT 8424 pathway with a sample form that you can use and go ahead with all your sales. So we actually encourage a lot of producers, take a look at it, review it for your own needs. What you need to put in there is really specific to your needs, but we have a sample form. I know in the past, some carriers have provided that. Maybe they will in the future. I know North America's been a good leader in the space in providing some guidance on what this rule means, and we publish that, can get that available to everybody. But just know that IAMS is out there. We got your back. We're there to support the independent producer. However this morphs, call us now to get that guide. We can get that for you. So now fast forward, we're talking, now we're in July, but in June, late June, we got additional information, a little bit of information, nugget. Yeah. What came out in June? What do you see by the end of the year happening?
Yeah, just some more breadcrumbs from DOL. Essentially what twice a year, every agency has to do a report to the Office of Management and Budget. Very wonky stuff. But what that report essentially says, it's called the Regulatory Flexibility Agenda. The cool kids in DC call it the Reg Flex Agenda. I'm not that cool. So what essentially it does, though, is it's demonstrate to OMB what priorities you have in each agency and what you're working on from a rulemaking effort. And it actually sort of requires you to say a date when you think you'll have that thing done. And what they wrote in their Reg Flex agenda is that we have a new definition of fiduciary coming with potentially some changes on
so that'd be like 4.0 or 5.0?
Yeah. Another new rule package on DOL fiduciary coming in December is the time frame that you're not beholden to that. They can do it earlier, they can do it later. But what it did, confirm, which we kind of already knew, is that the Biden DOL team is working on a totally new rewrite, a totally new rule. And that's going to be, I think another big effort for industry to figure out, to potentially fight, to potentially work with DOL if they get if we think we can, work with them to get it right. There's sort of, and I know there's all sorts of pathways that, from my world. So I'm out advocating on behalf of North American and the industry on what's going on, right? And what we can do to try to shape the rule, make it as good as we can. And then there's sort of the compliance piece. We got to figure out how the heck to comply with whatever it is that comes out. And then, as what happened last time, I'm not saying this is a for sure, but there's also a litigation pathway. If the rule is something that is just not, not going to work and has some flaws, industry litigated last time. It may happen again. We'll see how it shakes out.
So would 8424 potentially be on the table? That curve, chopping block?
I think DOL has. I mean, going back to that June guidance the April guidance. One thing they failed to really talk about much in that guidance was 8424. It was all about 2020-02, which told me at the time, look, I think that 8424 as it rests today and currently stands today is probably not going to be around exactly the same in the final sort of Biden rule, if you will. Now, will it be around in some form? We hope so. Will it be around in a workable form? We really hope so. I mean, that's what we're working on with DOL to try to say, look, this is super important. 2020-02, it just doesn't quite fit our model very well. 8424 does. So let's work together to try to find a workable solution to keep 8424 around in the long term. And now in the short term, from now until that new rule is done, we got to use the old version of 8424, which I know you have in your package there. But until then, we'll see if 8424 survives. I certainly hope it does. It's something we're working on, pretty hard.
So there's a number of different components kind of moving here. You got an acting Secretary of Labor. And
Secretary now. He's
been sworn in.
Yeah.
So we have how big of a priority this could be in comparison to other things like $15 an hour, COVID, and all these other things.
Yeah.
So where does this fit in? You got the industry that's lobbying to make it a workable thing. We kind of have a unique position, I think, in the independent space. Feels like, because we don't have natural supervisors or insurance only folks.
Yeah.
And so where do you think that's gonna? There's a lot of different ways. Maybe talk about a couple different ways that could go and then, best predictions of what's going forward.
Yeah, in terms of the department itself, I mean, Marty Walsh is the labor secretary. I would say that generally speaking, this isn't a top priority for him, but it's a top priority for the labor department, and he's kind of letting his team roll with it. Now, what is interesting is there's no secretary for EBSA, which is the sort of subdivision inside DOL that actually does all this stuff. Usually you don't do huge rulemaking efforts without a political secretary in place. They don't have one. Now, what they do have is an acting secretary who's been there a long time and knows his way around. So I think they're sort of comfortable with this moving without a true undersecretary in place. But to your point, what's the prediction? I think in December or around December, we'll see a new package, a pretty beefy package that will, in a lot of ways, look like the Obama-era rule. It'll have a lot of the same sort of rhetoric around we are solving these problems that persist in the retirement space, and that there's too many conflicts of interest and there's too many things. And of course, industry will push back on a lot of that narrative because we frankly don't think it's fair. And so that's something we'll continue to do. But as as it goes forward, we'll see a pretty beefy rule. Likely a new definition for fiduciary, so that whole 5-part thing is probably out the window anyway. But then probably some new changes to exemptions, and that includes 8424. I hope it will be our hope to push to keep that around in a workable form. We might see some changes to 2020-02 as well, because that was a Trump rule that was sort of let through with the Biden folks. I'm sure they have their own opinions on how to make that better as well, as is usually the case in a new administration. So I think we'll see a lot of changes to PTEs and a new rule itself, and then we'll go to bat again to try to figure it out.
Yeah, well, my prediction is we're going to have more changes. I mean, we just know that's coming. Know that North American IAMS, the trade groups that we're affiliated with, are out there sticking up for independent producers. You know, we have this available today, but this is only good as today.
Yep.
And so by the end of the year, you know, we probably have an updated version of this and a separate kind of pathway potentially. So just know we got your back. We're out there supporting you, as is North American, and provide you, you know, real-time information, accurate information from experts like Kevin Mechtley here. And so we're pleased to have that, and please provide the best information out to our producers to help you comply. So you're, you know, continue to operate in this great business that we all enjoy. I don't know, any other final parting words?
Yeah, I think your summation is correct. Change is coming. Change is constant. I know that IAMS has great resources and obviously has been a great partner with North American. We will be out there, you know, banging the drum on this from now until we can get to a workable solution, and know that North American too, really strong partner, high ratings, a great product set that we think will be really, really well positioned in a new fiduciary type world as well. We've got a broad, you know, range of products that we think fit every need, and that I think, you know, certain carriers will be better situated than others to truly thrive in a new fiduciary world. Not to say we're excited about a fiduciary world, but we're ready to pivot and be relevant and be right there for our distribution.
Thanks, Kevin and North American, for your partnership. Thank you for supporting independent agents. I know you've been great advocates. Associations like National Association for Fixed Annuities, other big trades, sticking up for producers just as we are. I know in our 35 years, we are committed to serving our independent producers with their annuity and life insurance needs. And again, if you're interested, we have this all expense paid Annuity and Life Academy. We're going to be featured partners with North American, November 3rd through 5th of this year. So if you're interested in that, we encourage you to contact your sales director here. We can certainly get you information on that and see if we can get you qualified. But thanks for joining. And again, we'll be pleased to provide more information and help you serve our independent producers and all your needs. Thank you very much.
Thank you.